east central Missouri, and then St. Genevieve County in southeastern Missouri. These thunderstorm warnings are in effect until 6:30 this evening. Severe thunderstorms afternoon.
From KMOX Sports.
Okay, boys, here we go.
Welcome to the Graybar Sports Open Line.
Low spin swings, and he hits a drive. He hits a slammer.
Graybar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs.
Here we go.
Now, Matt Pauley on America's Sports Voice, KMOX.
All right, man, let's get going here. Here we go. Let's go.
On a Wednesday night, we do welcome you into another edition of a Graybar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. My name is Matt Pauley. We have a full 2-hour program tonight, our only one this week. We've had a lot of Thursday off days when it comes to the Cardinals, but not this week. They're playing tomorrow, so this is going to be our only full 2-hour show over the course of this week, and we've got a lot to get to. First off, just not a pat on my back, but a pat on the collective backs of here at KMOX, because we've had a lot of really tough weather today, and the amazing people who work here, who I continue to be in awe of on an everyday basis. You just heard Maria Kina, Michael Calhoun earlier, everybody in the newsroom putting everything together, people behind the scenes. Like today we had severe weather coverage going as the Cardinals radio network was going on. And I won't get into the technical details of that, but that's not exactly the easiest thing to pull off. And they just do it like it's really easy here. So it means so much to the folks here at KMOX to keep people safe when it comes to bad weather. And it is a passion of so many people here, and it's really cool to see. And I think it's part of what makes KMOX, and I'm happy to be a very, very small part of it. So we're going to do Sports Open Line. If weather pops off again, you know what? I'll step aside, and we'll go into storm mode once more, and we'll keep you up to date with everything that's going on. Maria just mentioned some of the weather that was going through down in Jefferson County and south of St. Louis and so forth, and we'll be on top of it throughout the course of the program today. We do have a lot to get to. A lot of Cardinals baseball. They don't play today. They just were not. It wasn't going to happen. It wasn't. I wasn't in the cards. Is that a bad pun? Yeah, that's a bad pun. I shouldn't have gone down that path. But it simply was not going to happen today. And they lose an off day later on in the year, but Cardinals are in a tough spot right now. This is, I don't know if they're at like the brink of this season coming to an end. I think that would be an extremist, alarmist way of saying it. But if you don't, you're being a little too, I think, rah, a little too happy, joy, if you don't assess what's going on and not say that there's some issues right now. There are some issues right now that need to get worked out. People bring up the record, people bring up where they're at in the standings and how far they're like, I don't care about any of that. I just don't. None of those numbers are insurmountable numbers. Now, I think it was somebody actually from another radio station in town. I saw a tweet today about teams that are this far back or with this kind of record at this point of the season, how often they make it to the playoffs, and it's very rare. So those are cold, hard facts, and those are hard facts to argue with, and I'm not here to argue those facts. All I'll tell you is right now, it's not the games back thing that I'm worried about. It's not the overall record that I'm worried about. It's what's happening in games. That's what I'm worried about. If they can get some stuff figured out, all that other stuff will kind of work itself out. There's plenty of time left in this season, but I am losing confidence that they are going to be able to turn this thing around. And I think based off the callers and the texters and the tweeters I hear from, I think there's a fair amount of confidence being lost. And I'm not saying they're not going to do it. I still think there's plenty of time to do it. But I don't understand why this team is where they're at right now from an offensive standpoint. And it should not be this way. This team, the hitters, and this is where people push back on me sometimes because I'll say the hitters on this team are too good to be performing at the level that they are hitting at. And very often I get people who push back and say, well, are they really? Is there really that much talent on the roster? And my response to that is, in large part, the stats up until this year back that up. I cannot understand. I cannot grasp. I cannot do anything. I cannot figure out why somebody who was performing at a pretty high offensive level last year, and I'm talking specifically from an individual standpoint, because you go up and down the lineup, you go up and down the roster. There are guys who were performing at a very respectable level last year. Even guys like Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, who did not have great years last year, especially with Goldschmidt, you would, in a split second, you would take his numbers from last year and apply them to what he's doing this year. And the Cardinals might have 2 or 3 more wins if you just got that, because he's had opportunities to be able to drive in runs. So I don't completely understand how a group of players who profiled to be better than they're performing right now, why they're not performing at that level. And the more time that goes by, the more I'm worried they're not going to get out of the funk. Now, yesterday was not a bad offensive day. Not a bad offensive day yesterday. It was good to see them hit 3 home runs. Good to see them score 5 runs on 14 hits or whatever it was. Like, that's a good offensive day. They're going to win most of the games that they do that. But it was one game. Can they follow that up? If they follow that up this weekend against Milwaukee, if they go to Milwaukee and find a way to win that series, then all of a sudden you start to feel like maybe it's something. But it's going to be that much more challenging because you don't have Wilson Contreras available. He's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. We're going to talk about that a fair amount of time during the program as well today. If you do want to join us, you can do so by calling, texting, tweeting 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. That's how you call or text. You can tweet at me at Matt Pauley on air, MattPauley on air. When we return, we'll talk with Jacob Sersasimo. You see him on Channel 4. We'll talk with him on what he thinks is going wrong with the Cardinals. That's up next. This is a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Hi, I am Jackie Brock, the wife
Law Injury Lawyers. GetJim.com Studios.
KMOX.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
We do continue on with the program, taking you till 8 o'clock this evening. When we get done at your service, we'll be rolling your way. Our guy Brad Young is going to be in tonight from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. We've got a lot to get to, though. Before we get to then, talking a lot of Cardinals baseball right now. Very happy to be able to welcome back onto the program. You see him on Channel 4, First Alert 4. He is Jacob Sersosimo. You follow him on Twitter at Jacob Sersosimo, Sersosimo is how you spell his last name. He joins us right now. Jacob, thanks for taking some time. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Michael Calhoun said earlier today when I plugged that you were going to be on the show, I said your last name. And he goes, oh, so that's how you say his name, because sometimes people just see your name written up there without hearing it. So we're trying to let everybody know exactly the correct pronunciation of the last name.
I appreciate it. I have some friends I met here in St. Louis when I first moved here about 7 months ago. And one of them just asked me about 2 days ago how you say my last name. So
it's funny.
Even the people close to me still don't know sometimes. It's a tough one. I get it.
What's the line on where you've known somebody long enough, but if you don't know a part of their name, where you know what, you just can't ask that question anymore?
With my last name, I don't think there is really a line.
Okay.
It's kind of a tougher one. So I get it. Some people, they say Sersosimo. And they look at it a little too long. So for my last name, I don't think there is a line. Maybe like 5 years. I'd say 5 years. You could probably stop asking me.
5 years. There you go. Cardinals don't play today. They had a rough homestand. They lose 2 of 3 to a bad White Sox team. They lose both the games against the Mets. I mean, they lose Wilson Contreras. This team, Jacob, is just in a really, really tough spot right now.
Yeah, I mentioned it the other night. We have the Nightcap show on 10:30 on Saturday nights. I mentioned it in that show that it's so weird. Before the season, we talk so much about pitching with this team. We talk so much about, their defense. They want to have good defense. And the season starts, and now we're talking so much about offense. It seemed like we weren't really talking about that at all to begin the season. And you were there last night. Being there last night, and when Wilson Contreras goes down, it seemed like it sucked the life right out of Busch Stadium. And I think a lot of fans kind of saw a glimpse of the season kind of flash before their eyes with that injury, because the injury didn't look good at all from the first look at it. And 2, it seemed like a harsh realization of this team's not going to have Wilson Contreras for the foreseeable future. And right now, Wilson Contreras is playing pretty much the best baseball on the team. So not necessarily a great weekend or a homestand at all. And to have that happen at the end of it moving forward, I can't imagine there's a lot of confidence moving forward with this team. I should mention on, the first day of the homestand on Friday, I was in the locker room, or I was in the clubhouse before the game, and I was interviewing Mason Wynn, and he mentioned this is a must-sweep series. And this was against the White Sox. He's like, we shouldn't lose a game of this series. And then they go, and they not only do they lose a game, but they lose the series. And it kind of seemed like that's where their head was before the series. We shouldn't lose even a game to the White Sox. And then you lose the series. And I don't know if it, Garner's looking in the mirror a little bit closer or what, but hearing that before the series and then kind of seeing how the homestand ended, it's kind of tough to put those two together.
Yeah. And for me, going into that series, I felt, because I don't like to make too much of series when we're talking about April and May and even getting into June, but it did just feel like if we're going to sit here for the first month of the season and talk about how tough the schedule is and all these trips out to the West Coast and kind of put in these excuses or maybe reasons on why things may not go great, once you get to the point where the schedule eases up a little bit, then I think you got to be just as kind of fair on the other side of things. And that was a series against the White Sox that they had no business losing.
Yeah, and I think for me, at least, this series, for like this weekend series, this homestand with the Mets and the White Sox seemed like the first month of the season's out of the way. Let's settle into the season, get fans back out to the ballpark, and let's see how this unfolds. That's how it felt to me, right? Okay, we're in the season. Let's get this thing going now. They'll come home. It's after the first month. We're now in a groove. Sonny Gray's fully back. We're getting guys back. We're getting good. Here they go. And then you lose the series to the White Sox, and then you play like you did against the Mets. And it kind of seemed like for a weekend that was supposed to be promising moving forward, where the organization can be like, hey, this is what we've been telling you about. We can still win games. it didn't turn out that way. So it just seemed weird this weekend if something that was supposed to go a different way and it went the complete opposite way.
The Wilson Contreras injury was really a perfect storm because Contreras is inching closer, as most catchers are, to try to steal that strike, while you got Martinez standing on the line or over the line in the back. And then have you ever seen that? I have never seen somebody, not even a backswing, but just on the swing, come down on the forearm. I've seen it hit the glove, but I've never seen it on the swing. Have you ever seen that before?
I have not seen the arm. Sometimes, especially, I know catchers are getting closer now, but you see like the top of the glove.
Yeah.
And then maybe recently you might see like the back of the glove, right? Where it hits like the back of the fingers. I have never seen how high it hit on the forearm. Like that's a full arm. You think about where his arm had to be for that to happen. That's way up there in the box.
It is. And I not the blame needs to be handed out anywhere, but it's part of it is where Contreras is setting up, and part of it is where Martinez is setting up, and those two things come together, and you get a really, really tough situation.
Yeah, and you look at, everybody talks about everybody in baseball since the beginning of time. Everyone's been trying to find an edge, right? And especially with velo now and TrackMan, and you can, find these really small edges in the game where everyone's so good. Everyone's talking about, velo of a pitch. How do we change the slider to be a certain way? Well, we check the velo and the TrackMan. It doesn't surprise me that baseball was inching closer. That part of a catcher just moving a little bit closer can get the ump to call, maybe a low strike better, how that is. It doesn't surprise me that that's been a conversation and that's how it goes. It's just very, very unfortunate to have someone, get hurt like that. And nobody wants it to happen, right? Like the person telling the catcher, hey, maybe we should move up, they're not thinking about that. Things happen in the major leagues so fast. And the chances of that happening really, I don't feel like are that high, especially with how batters swing and how things like catchers have been close forever. I feel like, I know I didn't play a very high level of baseball, but like the catchers there were pretty close. It's just the chances of getting hit didn't seem like they were very high. But obviously, if you look at the stats this year, they're getting higher, and it's just super unfortunate that it just so happened to be against one of the best catchers in the league.
Yeah, it's a challenging thing to talk through because, and Kevin Wheeler from our station mentioned this earlier. There's a million pitches thrown a year, and this is the first time any of us have seen a guy get hit on the forearm. So it's literally a 1 in a million shot. Are you really going to change the rules or ask catchers to do something differently based off a 1 in a million chance that they're going to get hit in the arm?
Yeah, and you've seen catchers frame the ball better over the years, right? Like that's a big part of the conversation as well. And so does moving up help that a little bit? Like I said, it's baseball. These are some of the best athletes in the world, and it's literally a game of like centimeters. Like if Arenado hits the ball a centimeter higher, it goes out other than hitting the wall. Like this is literally a game of centimeter. And these catchers at the time, like catcher, for an example, we're talking about it because it happened to Wilson Contreras, but if moving up just a little bit makes them catch the ball a centimeter higher on the bottom to make it look like a strike to the ump, of course you're going to do it.
Right. Absolutely. He is Jacob Sersosimo. You see him on Channel 4, First Alert 4. Follow him on Twitter at Jacob Sersosimo. Jacob, thanks so much for taking some time. I'm sure we'll talk again real soon.
I appreciate it. Have a great night, guys.
Awesome. Very good. There's Jacob Sersosimo joining us on the program. Back-to-back interviews. When we return, we're going to have Kendra D. St. Aubin. She's part of the team with MLS Season Pass. That's coming up in just a moment as we continue with the Graybar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Hey, guys, it's not too late for a deep spring cleaning on your home. Give my friend
limited time, get an incredible 60% off your order. That's legacybox.com/value for 60% off. legacybox.com/value.
Dive into all things Cardinals on Cardinals Conversations, your go-to location for exclusive content from KMOX. Catch it on the Odyssey app or your favorite podcast platform. Stay connected with your team. Cardinals Conversations, where the Redbird talk never stops.
It's a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX. If you're in the St. Louis metro area, maybe you've seen some lightning, some thunder, have some gnarly weather. If it really starts to pick up again, we'll dump out here of talking sports, and we'll keep you safe with weather coverage. We've been doing it throughout the day, so stay right here one way or another. But right now, very happy to be able to talk a little MLS soccer and City SC. They are coming off a scoreless draw this past weekend against Houston, and now they're ready to be back at home this weekend, and they're going to match up against Chicago. We welcome on to the program part of the team at MLS Season Pass and Apple TV, Kendra D. St. Aubin. You follow her on Twitter at Kendra Sports, spelling Kendra Kyndra. Kendra, welcome back onto the program. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So this City team, it's they just keep drawing after draw after draw after draw. I mean, they're tying every single game. What do you make of what's been? And it's not always scoreless like this past weekend. The weekend before against Sporting KC, it was a 3-3 draw. So it just keeps happening over and over.
That's exactly what I was just talking about. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to look at the schedule and I'm going to look at what they've been able to do or not be able to do. And they must be struggling scoring goals. But then when you look at how many goals that they've scored, and they've got these 2-2, 3-3 games, some games where it's 2-0, 3-1. And then you have these 0-0. So that's what I feel like it would be the most frustrating as a coach and a fan base. If you're watching this team, is trying to figure out who are they in 2024. I know that they don't want to say that they overperformed in 2023. And Bradley Carnell, when we talked to him earlier this year, he was like, we're not going to listen to what other people say. Other people think we overperformed, but we knew what we were capable of. Well, they absolutely killed it in 2023. So the bar was set, the standard's been raised, the expectations are higher heading into this season with another year under your belt. But at the same time, everybody also knows who you are and who your stars are. So I think some of it is just the inconsistency in trying to figure out how do they have this many draws already this season, more draws this year already than they had all of last season. I think that is just trying to figure out the balancing act of the 3-3 results versus the 0-0. And if you're getting the draws, how are you going to find a way to score goals?
Yeah, it's remarkable that it does keep happening. Anytime you have a result like that where you tie and you're one goal away from winning, you can always go back and look at the tape and you can find the play here, the moment here that could have maybe led to an opportunity to score. As you watch the City team, what is that thing that maybe is holding them back from turning some of these ties into wins?
Well, I think a huge piece of what they're trying to figure out is, first of all, you can't understate missing Edward Leuven. I think he's been a huge miss for this club, having only played 3 games on the season. I know he's had some injuries and then dealt with some personal issues and whatnot. Like, you cannot understate the value of a player like that in center midfield. I do think also just trying to figure out how is Joao Klaus most effective. We've seen his work rate off the ball, how he works probably harder than any other 9 in the league to win the ball back, the high pressing, the additional running. But then when he's doing that high pressing and he's doing that additional running, is he pulling himself out of a position to be in a dangerous position to score when they win the ball back? Because Bradley Carnell also prides himself on, and their team on, winning the ball higher up the field, playing this game in a part that you make it easier on yourself by doing this little bit of high press and winning the ball in dangerous areas. But if you're high pressing and you're winning the ball back with your number 9 and he's stretched wide in the wide areas, then who's inside the box? Who's going to be most effective to get the goal? So I think that's a huge piece of it. And then finding out, too, what is the best way to play everybody together to be most effective? Sam Adeniran missed some time, with that kind of craziness that was going on of why he wasn't playing. And now he's back in the mix. How you play him and Joao Klaus together. Now Sam Adeniran is not an unknown to the rest of the league. Last year, the goals he was scoring were insane. They weren't just goals. They were like these ridiculous bangers. He's a very single-minded individual, meaning he gets the ball and he wants to go to goal. And you love that in a player. So I think it's just trying to figure out those pieces of the puzzle and how do you get the most effective aspect out of all your front attacking players to find success, because clearly the defense hasn't been a real issue. I mean, the shutouts, the clean sheets, you got Roma and Berkey in goal. You got a back line that's been incredibly solid. I don't think that defense is an issue. And I don't know if you heard, Roma Berkey's post game, but he seemed a little frustrated with the lack of goal scoring, the lack of consistency in front of goal as well. So you hope that it all comes together sooner rather than later, because you think you got a lot of time. Then all of a sudden you're halfway through, we're a third of the way through the season. Pretty soon you're halfway through the season. Then you have the All-Star break. Then you have Leagues Cup. And then it's kind of a crapshoot how everybody comes back from Leagues Cup, whether you hit your stride or you hit a lull.
Yeah, I have that conversation all the time when I'm talking baseball. At what point is it not early on in the season anymore? And it's a really, really long MLS season. But as you do get into May and eventually into June, saying it's early and you're just a step off from everything like that I don't think fans want to hear that as much.
No, I mean, first of all, fans don't have patience. They don't have time for that. And I can respect that. I mean, we've all been fans of some team. I mean, I live in Minnesota, for goodness sake. So I've suffered, time and time again with a lot of Minnesota sports. You don't want to have patience, and you want your cake and eat it too, and you want the success to come quickly. But a lot of coaches think in the early on part of the season, hey, it's only one game. We're still finding our form. It's only two, or, it's only preseason, or whatever it is. And I remember talking to Nick Cushing before one of the NYCFC games, and he's like, yeah, we can say that. Like, oh, we've got 32 games left. Well, pretty soon it's 31, and then it's 29. And that, before you know it, you've got to start finding a way to get points. You have to find a way to start putting it together. And most importantly, what St. Louis City has to continue to lean on is their home form. Their home stadium is phenomenal. The fan base there is phenomenal. When they can find a way to continue to get the points at home and get the wins at home, and I know it's cliche, but you get the draws on the road. If you're getting draws on the road and not at home, you have, some hope to make it to the postseason. But as we all know as well, this league is built on parity. So you can legitimately go into every game every single night and not know who's going to win. And this weekend they have Chicago. In your mind, in the fan base mind, and in St. Louis City's mind, this should be 3 points at home against a Chicago team that clearly is struggling to figure it out and sit 13th in the East.
The rivalry with Kansas City is fantastic. Chicago is obviously St. Louis. Chicago is a great rivalry almost in no matter what the sport is. How important is it for MLS that this St. Louis Chicago thing starts to turn into something?
I think I'm a big believer in that, like, rivalries have to be organic and there has to be a reason for why it develops. So maybe you just need a couple of these games against a club like that where there's a little more in it, a little more physical, maybe the energy behind it. Maybe there's a couple chippy fouls. Maybe there's a lot of goals and some big time saves, whatever it might be. I just don't think you can force the issue. And just because you are regionally, logistically, geographically, I should say, close to one another, you cannot force that rivalry. It has to happen organically, and usually it stems from previous results. Or like Minnesota United, especially early on, was big rivals with Atlanta United. Well, that was because they came into the league the same year, and Minnesota was like the ugly stepchild because they didn't spend the kind of money that Arthur Blank and Atlanta United were spending. So it has to be something that just kind of comes organically, and a lot of times it's fed by the fan base. So I don't think the league can force it. I think it has to be something that just happens on its own. And this is two teams facing each other this weekend in different conferences, but both need a win badly and need to prove to their fan base that they're going to find a way to be successful from here on out and at least continue to climb and stay above that playoff line. So it should be a good one. We'll have to see. There's some star strikers on both these teams, though. Who's going to win out,
Mm-hmm. Totally random sidebar, but since you're in Minnesota, can you describe the excitement and the fervor right now for the Timberwolves? Because they look like they might just go win an NBA championship.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know that anybody is stopping them at this point. They made the Nuggets look silly.
Yeah.
Like absolutely silly. And I'll tell you what, you talk about rivalries. After the way the Nuggets crushed the T-Wolves last year, there was a little bit of something extra there. But you could tell, I mean, my husband and I, we've watched every game pretty much of the playoffs that we've been able to. And it's same thing. It's like you're sitting on the edge of the seat. You're excited for this team. There's a different feel about it. And it's not just, Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. It's the whole group. I mean, the way this team plays defense, it's like insane, so it's fun to see. It's been fun to see the town and the city get behind it, and the state for that matter. And the Timberwolves have been pretty bad for a long time, and, they're harkening back to the KG days. So it's been fun. And I asked him tonight, I go, to the Timberwolves play tonight? He's like, not till Friday.
Yeah.
I was like, you got to be kidding me. What the heck? We got to wait. We got to wait all this time to plop down on the couch and watch a good game. So it's been fun, as I'm sure you can appreciate being, a sports fan in your market. You've got no shortage of teams to cheer for and get behind as well.
Well, here's the thing. The Nuggets are a Kroenke-owned team, and Stan Kroenke is a despised figure in St. Louis. So right now, all of St. Louis is standing strong with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Oh, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
That's what I like to hear. Sometimes, again, you go back to what creates these rivalries or these hatreds of other teams. Sometimes it's something as crazy as that, And last night, let's say, for example, we were watching the Avs and the Stars play, right, in the NHL playoffs. I hate those teams equally because the Avs are just dirty and always have Minnesota Wild's number in the playoffs. And the Stars, the North Stars left and went to Dallas. So then it's like you have these certain feelings and energy behind different sports franchises and cities. And that's kind of what starts these kinds of things. So who knows? What do you see from Chicago and St. Louis? How does that rivalry come about? What's the feeling in St. Louis about Chicago, or is there not one yet?
I don't think there is one. I think so much focus is on Sporting Kansas City that Chicago is a secondary thing right now.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, the St. Louis Kansas City thing has been fun to watch. Same thing, energy behind that. The fan base is traveling. I think that the Sporting Kansas City is such a historic club. But they kind of always get drifted over in the Midwest. It's kind of like a flyover. Sometimes how people feel about Minnesota, but St. Louis just burst onto the scene last year, and that probably really upset quite a few people in Kansas City.
Yeah,
you had to, right?
It did, which is fun from our perspective until it got to the playoffs. Before we let you go, need you to plug everything going on at MLS Season Pass and Apple TV, because you guys, in addition to the game broadcast, just so much content being produced on pretty much an everyday basis.
Yeah, I will have to say that I've thoroughly enjoyed my conversations that I get to have with every different club every single week, which is a little bit different than when you're working for a club. Really getting the insight and the backstory to kind of tell the story of all these teams across the league, which is something that we get to do with MLS and with Apple. But also, when you go on Apple TV and I'm scrolling down to find the game that I need to watch for the next week, or rewatch the previous week, or whatever it is, it's crazy how far and how long I have to scroll now because of the amount of content. The supporter sections for each club, the previous games, the wrap-up shows, the 360 show, the insights, the features on the players. I mean, I think it's really pretty cool that everybody and anybody who's a fan of MLS, and if you haven't been and you come across it, the amount of content that you could truly absorb and soak in a single day, let alone a weekend. And then this weekend is rivalry week. So you have all these games, every week kind of has this theme, and you can go down and say, well, it's like if you watch the MLS broadcast on Apple, and we go through the schedule and we see the scores, and my broadcast partner, Tyler, says, hey, who are you keeping an eye on? What score stands out at you, as we're in live action? And it's hard to pick a game. You go down and you kind of have these aha moments of results and games and scores and what different teams are doing on any given night. It's hard to pick a singular game to try to focus on because there's so much happening in this league and it's all accessible in one spot. So there's not a bad thing I can say about it. I don't know how the rest of your fan base feels about it, but it's been a fun thing to be a part of, that's for sure.
Awesome. Really cool. Kendra D. St. Aubin, thank you so much for taking the time. Hopefully we catch up again with you in the future.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Very good. We'll take a break. Have more in a moment. It's a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Tom Ackerman here for Busey Bank and Building Community. This month, we're casting
Gotti, Royer, and Barry. You can too. Go to youreyedoctor.com.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
No Cardinals baseball today, but it would have been a weekday day game had they played. So we're going to give you an opportunity. We always do this on the program because we generally, if they play, we don't do the full extra inning show where we take phone calls and everything. So I always try to scratch out a little bit of time for you to call in, text in, tweet in about the Cardinals. We'll do that after the 7 o'clock news. So if you want to get in here, you can do so. 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. So earlier when I opened up the show, I said that I'm incredibly concerned about the Cardinals right now. Though that's kind of a new stance from me. I had sort of been the everything's probably going to be okay guy, and now I'm starting to move towards the okay. They got some issues here that they gotta work through. I'm leaving open the possibility that they do work through those issues because, again, I have seen all these hitters perform at a much higher level, and I don't think they just forgot how to hit. I just don't understand why they're not hitting. I don't have all the confidence in the world that they're going to come around, but I'm also not closing the door for it possibly happening. Get a text message from the 314. Hey, Matt, quit drinking the Kool-Aid. Kyle Sixt is in studio with me today. Kyle, am I drinking Kool-Aid on the St. Louis Cardinals?
I don't think you are. I mean, you just came on here and you said that you're a little less high than you were earlier in the season, and I think that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, I am concerned. I am legitimately concerned about this team. I am legitimately concerned about what's going to happen here in the near term and the hole that they could potentially put themselves in. I'm just not willing to close off the possibility that they do have a turnaround in them.
I mean, I agree, but the White Sox series was very concerning. That was one,
yeah.
I know Jacob said when you had him on that Mason Wynn said you needed to have all three, and to not even win that series is just brutal. And I think it's a huge red flag. Obviously, the record, the offense, everything isn't where you want it to be, but there's still time, but that you need to start winning games like now.
I try to be fair in everything I say. So if I'm going to sit here for the first month of the season and talk about the travel and talk about the West Coast trips and talk about the level of opponents that you're playing, then I got to do the same on the other direction, because once the schedule lightens up, if you're not winning games, you got to address that. And that's especially what happened in the White Sox series. It wasn't good. This is Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
If you had a crystal ball, you wouldn't agonize over when to sell your home. You'd just ask,
and 69 downtown of the Arch. Again, westbound 44 west of Jameson. Only that left lane is getting by because the highway is covered in water at this time. And we still are under a flood watch in effect until midnight. And that's for much of the KMOX listening area. I'm Maria Aquina, KMOX News.
The following is a special KMOX sports presentation. Welcome to the Strike Zone on KMOX. Presented by Graybar. Graybar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs.
It's the 7 o'clock hour on a Wednesday night. That means we are doing the Strike Zone, which more often than not is nothing but baseball. Although we're going to expand the definition of Strike Zone today because Derek Lewis, a UFC fighter, is going to join us at about 7:35. But you know what? He strikes people. So Strike Zone, striking people. It works. It works. I think it works. If you want to join into the program, you could do so by calling, texting, or tweeting. The phone number is 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. That's how you call or text, or you can tweet at me at Matt Pauley on air, MattPauley on air. Cardinals do not lose today. They also don't win today because they don't play a game, and now they push back their starting pitching to tomorrow. I think all in all, not playing today was probably good. Like, if we're just putting all cards on the table, not playing today was probably good because at the very least, it sets up Sonny Gray for tomorrow against Milwaukee. And if you're going to find a way to maybe win that Brewers series and let that be a starting off point to this team starting to climb a ladder back up, and there's no guarantee that's going to happen. Last time you saw the Brewers, it did not go especially well, but being able to possibly set the tone with Sonny Gray pitching tomorrow, I think that would be a good thing for this team. A lot of people have asked, is there somebody at AAA who can join this team and really get them going, like just be a catalyst for the offense improving? As we take a look at the future, we'll build the future, sponsored by Graybar, your distributor for electrical and data communication needs. I don't think so. And it's not because I don't think highly of some of the players that are at AAA. It's because of what's happened with this team over the last few years. When you graduate a Jordan Walker, and admittedly he's back at AAA, but it's different. It feels different now than it did when he first showed up. You've graduated Nolan Gorman. You've graduated Mason Wynn. Like these players who can be impact players at the major league level, a lot of those position players at that level of the minor league system, they have already graduated to the big leagues, and it's going to take a little while for some of these high-level prospects to get back to the AAA level where they're, or even the AA level for many of them, where they can start to impact the team right away. The one guy that gets talked about a lot, and rightfully so, is Thomas Saggese. He's probably got the most major league ready bat of the players who are at AAA Memphis right now, but he's hitting 250. I mean, he's hitting 252, 4 home runs, 17 RBIs, a 758 OPS. So, a 750 OPS it's a good OPS, but not a great OPS. Now, the International League is a pitcher's league. Sometimes those numbers actually go up a little bit, but sometimes they don't. So could he come in and perform at an okay level? Maybe, or maybe he struggles, but I don't think there's just this huge difference maker who's going to be coming in and doing something for this team. And the bottom line is, and we've repeated this over and over and over again, is that they have to get it. They have to find a way for the players who are expected to produce to start producing. And with Wilson Contreras' injury, that's down to 2 guys now. That's Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. Going into the season, it was Goldschmidt, Arenado, and Contreras. Well, Contreras is going to be out for the next 6 to 8 weeks. And those other 2 guys are going to have to carry a load. And Goldschmidt was not in the lineup today. We'll see if he's in the lineup tomorrow. When we heard Oliver Marmol, I think it was when he spoke with Tom Ackerman this morning, he basically said that he wanted Paul Goldschmidt to be able to sit back during a baseball game and just kind of enjoy the game with no pressure. Well, the game was never played. Does that mean he doesn't play tomorrow, or was enjoying the rain delay with no pressure what you get, and Goldschmidt's going to be back in the lineup tomorrow? We will have to wait and see. Randy has given us a call. Hey, Randy, you are on a Gray Bar Sports Open Line during a Strike Zone hour.
How you doing, man?
All right.
Could you give me up? Do you know who's going to be pitching for the Cardinals when they play Milwaukee? Do you know yet?
Yeah, they're still figuring out the entire timeline of what it's going to look like. It is going to be Sonny Gray in the first game, and then from there, Oliver Marmol did speak a little bit after the game today, and he said that they're going to be figuring some things out for the rest of the series. So right now, Sonny Gray is going to pitch the first game of the series, and officially everything. The Friday game is TBD. Kyle Gibson is scheduled to go on Saturday, and then it's another TBD on Sunday. So we only really know two of the pitchers that are going to be going over the 4 days. They probably honestly knew before then, but they'll make that announcement at some point tomorrow, and then they'll go from there. So that's where they're at. Having this extra off day, it's not the worst thing in the world, especially when you consider you're coming off a turn through the rotation where Miles Michaelis was not especially good and Lance Lynn was not especially good their last time out. So if those guys are not going to be where you quite want them to be, giving them an extra day the next time through, that's, again, not the worst thing in the world. And they only have 4 starters in the rotation right now. That's the other side of it. So if you don't give them the extra day, you can just roll through the rotation on a 4-man rotation. Last time that 5th spot came open, it was Matz who they used in that spot. And it was Liberatore who they used in Matz's spot is what I meant to say. And maybe they keep Liberatore in the bullpen. Maybe, he pitched fine, but it was a bullpen game. He didn't go deep into the game. Even if he goes a little bit deeper than he did in that first game, it's still not great. Is there a possibility that maybe he maybe they bring somebody up? Maybe. I don't know. I kind of have a hard time believing that is something that is likely to happen. 314-436-7900. That's how you call. That's how you text. You can tweet at me as well. This is a Gray Bar Sports Open Line as we go through a Strike Zone hour right here on KMOX.
Says here that Gray Bar is a distributor.
Yeah, we support electrical and datacom projects all over the country.
So you can get me the products I need, where and when I need them?
Yeah, thanks to our national logistics network.
Any industry?
Yeah, construction, industrial plants, schools, hospitals.
So you could say Gray Bar is much more than a distributor.
Yeah, you could say that. When you need a hand powering, connecting, or maintaining your operations, join the thousands of professionals who rely on Gray Bar to help keep them up and running. Yeah, Gray Bar does that.
Hey everyone, Boomer Esiason here. The NFL draft is behind us and your favorite team is now gearing up for week number 1. The free Odyssey app puts you right in the middle of the pro football conversation with the biggest sports radio stations from across the country. The local voices who know your team the best, giving you their unfiltered takes on the current state of your squad. It's always football season on the free Odyssey app. That's AUDACY. Download it today.
It's a Great Bar Sports Open Line. We are doing the Strike Zone Hour here on KMOX. Want to run through a couple text messages about the Cardinals, then we're going to switch gears and talk some City SC soccer. We'll hear from Bradley Carnell, who addressed the media earlier today. Text message from the 314 says, during the offseason, most people kept waiting for the Cardinals to pick up an impact pitcher or two more. Goes on to say they didn't. Did they think the starting five would make every start for a season to be effective? Did they think they had great replacements in case? It's the same story as previous offseason. It seems the Cardinals management engaged in magical thinking. I understand that text, and I actually think it's a very fair text. Here's where I would disagree with it. I think what the Cardinals did in terms of acquiring pitching in the offseason has worked. Sonny Gray has been one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. Kyle Gibson goes out, gives you a chance to win. He always gives you 6 innings. Lance Lynn has been more good than bad. He's been fine. He keeps you in games. You can take issue with Miles Michaelis. Michaelis has the up and downs for Michaelis. There's been too many downs. So that's fine. I say this over and over, and people hate it when I say it, but I believe it, so I'll keep saying it because I don't lie to you. I really don't care who the 5th starter is. I just don't. Go take a step back and, with the exception of a handful of teams that have just amazing starting rotations 1 through 5, man, there's a lot of number 5 starters in baseball that just aren't very good. The goal of the number 5 starter is to find somebody who can give you 5 innings, not blow up, keep your bullpen in a place where it's not a really bad day, and get you back to the next time through the rotation. I don't care who the 5th starter is. So now would I, if this team were to make the playoffs, would I be comfortable with this rotation in the playoffs? No, I think they need another high-end starter for the playoffs. But for the regular season, whether it's Steven Matz, whether it's Matthew Liberatore, whether it's Gordon Graceffo, whether it's Sim Robertson, I don't care. Whoever you want to just give 5 and give you a chance to stay in the game. Don't blow up. You do that, I'm fine. I am fine, and get you to the next day and let Sonny take the mound once again. So that's as hot of a take as you're going to get from me. I don't really care who the 5th starter is as long as they don't blow up when they do that. That's my line. It's the 5th starter. There's not a lot of great 5th starters across baseball. Somebody mentioned the Cardinals record on Sunday, which is not very good, 0-6. They've got a Sunday game. Cardinals fans love this. So there's going to be another streaming package of games that would appear. Last year, there was those early Sunday morning games on Peacock. Peacock did not re-up it, but Major League Baseball still wanted to have that package of games. Nothing has been officially announced, but the rumors have been that they were going to sign a deal with Roku, that Roku was going to get an exclusive game every week on Sunday mornings, basically the exact same package that Peacock had last year. Well, all of a sudden, the Cardinals-Cubs game in Chicago on June 16th, it had its start time moved from 1:20 to 12:05. So the internet speculation is that that's going to be a Roku game, even though they have not officially announced that quite yet. So we'll keep an eye on that. I don't know. I know no details of this, but I do think that if these games do end up on Roku, it's going to be something where if you have the Roku app, which is free, you're going to be able to watch the games. With the Apple TV package, the thing that kind of stinks about that on Friday nights is you now have to have an Apple TV subscription for that. When that first started, you just had to have Apple TV and you could watch it for free. Now you need a subscription. So I understand why fans push back on that a little bit. I would hope that this Roku package is something that is free for fans, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, let's get into City SC for just a few moments. They're going to match up against Chicago this upcoming weekend. Head coach Bradley Carnell, he met with the media a little bit today, wanted to play back some of the things that he had to say. Feels like, and this is the same, we've been hearing this message pretty consistently here recently as they keep coming up with ties in games. And anytime you finish in a draw, every single almost becomes such a spotlight on the almost. So he talked about getting chances, but still needing to convert those chances.
Where we were a year ago, expected goals, I think we're there and thereabouts, if not on par with what exactly we were doing last year. The story is we took every chance. We're getting into really good moments and not converting those chances. And you go through phases, you go through moments, and, we've spoiled all of these moments going our way. And now something doesn't go our way. We're still creating. We're still right there in terms of who we are and what we want to be. And I thought we've got better in many, many moments than we were last year. We pose challenges. We ask questions. Where can we convert those? How we can convert them? We have good meetings with each other. We're very truthful and honest in our reflection. And every day we strive to get better. And that's the part of being a pro.
When it comes to converting, a big part of being able to convert and score more is to be able to score in transition. And he did talk about those chances that they've had in those transition opportunities.
We train in transition all the time, and we get most of our chances through transition. I mean, just saw that we had some great build-out moments against Houston, from the back, that if they do get scored, they'll be spoken about for team goal of the year, probably, but we don't get that credit from anyone because they don't see us as that kind of a team. But, we do have different ways and ingredients to inflict and probe and penetrate in the final third. So we have a lot of good things going for us. We don't want to talk negative too much about it, and we don't want to be too settled and comfortable with 7 ties.
That's an interesting thing that he says there at the end, that they don't want to be too negative, but they also don't want to be comfortable and settle with the amount of ties that they're getting. And as a head coach, and the culture and just the dynamic that you try to establish inside of your program, that's a tough line to straddle, because clearly Bradley Carnell does not want negativity around, and there are some good things happening. They are collecting some points in some games, but you don't want to just be happy with draw after draw after draw after draw. That's pretty simple. That's a basic thing. So that's what they're working through right now. Talking about those ties specifically, I think we've gotten to a point now in the season, because they've had so many ties, that early on fans were kind of accepting them as part of the early season process. It was a really tough start to the season for City, just coming off an off season and having so many games early on. But I get the sense now that fans are starting to get frustrated with all these ties, despite the fact that they're not getting wins, also not getting losses. Carnell said that good things absolutely are happening.
I had a good discussion today as a group for many moments. We executed the game plan really well. We forced them into many mistakes, of which, they don't make many mistakes in the possession phases. So I thought we had the right pickup points, transitioned in the right way. Missed a little bit of the execution in the final third, but we have some really good moments going for us. And I don't like to speak nicely about ties all the time, but I think we are on the right track. And I don't think there's many pieces of the puzzle missing. So we get a really good sequence and end with a great goal.
So for them to score more goals, because you think about it, all these ties, dictionary definition, they are literally one goal away from a win and getting the 3 points time after time after time. He says that for that to start happening, for them to score more goals, it has to happen as they score as a team.
I don't think they are through individual brilliance. We don't have anyone taking on 5-6 guys and, missing a 1v1 with the goalkeeper. We don't have those. We're having good team progressive moments of 3, 4, 5 sequences and passes. That final execution does not go our way. We score as a team. We concede as a team. We defend as a team. So we don't want to be pointing fingers now when it doesn't go anyone's way. We encourage. We provide support video. We can only emphasize and demonstrate that we are growing even in moments like this.
And again, until they start either winning or losing, this conversation about ties is going to continue on. So if you want to stop talking about it, it's up to the team to stop tying, right? But while we focus on the ties as being non-wins, you can also look at the ties as being non-losses. And he did talk about the fact that they are one of the teams with fewest losses across MLS.
I think we're the only team in the Western Conference with 1 loss and second on the whole league. So we don't get too comfortable with that. We need a couple more in the wins column. And don't forget, we've come out of a stretch where 3 away games in the last 5. And we've had 3 clean sheets in the last 4. Thinking about now putting it in our own hands. And now we have good opportunities here at City Park where we know we can be really strong.
That is Bradley Carnell. Thanks to Jen Cease for providing that audio for us. She does just a great job covering the team for KMOX, and appreciate her getting that for us today. City in action coming up this weekend. They are going to match up against Chicago. That's going to be on Saturday at City Park. And of course, as always, speaking of Jen, you can hear it on our sister station, Y98. She's part of the broadcast crew over there, and they just do a great job with that. All right, when we come back, we'll do something a little bit different. The UFC, it is coming to St. Louis this weekend, and it's going to be a big card. the heavyweight bout, the main event, is going to match up Derek Lewis. Now, Lewis, he holds the UFC record for most knockouts. This dude is he's a tough guy. They're all tough guys. Let's be honest. But he's got a big heavyweight bout coming up this weekend against Rodrigo Nascimento in St. Louis, the UFC, for the first time in 6 years. Earlier today at Busch Stadium, I got the chance to talk with Derek Lewis, and you'll hear that conversation in just a moment on a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Nobody wants a surprise in their jelly donut. It's toothpaste.
.com today.
Welcome back to the Strike Zone on KMOX. Presented by Gray Bar. Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs.
It's Gray Bar Sports Open Line here on KMOX. This weekend, a big weekend as the UFC is going to return to St. Louis. It hasn't been in St. Louis for about 6 years, and headlining the card is Derek Lewis. He joins us right now. Derek, appreciate you taking some time with us today.
Thanks for having me.
How excited are you for this bout coming up this weekend?
I'm super excited. It's my first time in St. Louis. It's been a beautiful city. The downtown area and everything is just so nice here.
What jumps out to you about the city?
The cleanliness that they have here. It's a lot cleaner than most cities I've been to. It's pretty cool, though.
So what you're known for a lot of things, but one of the things you're most known for is you hold the UFC record for knockouts. Just being that guy, there's been a lot of great fighters that have come through, and for you to hold a record like that, what does it mean to you?
It's unbelievable. If you know my story, it's just you would know that it means a lot to me for me to accomplish something like that. So it just all the people that came before me and had the opportunity to do that, like way more well-rounded fighters before me that had the opportunity that didn't achieve that. And for me to achieve that, it means a lot.
I know your story a little bit. You were a football player. You had some run-ins with, the law, and you were able to get on the straight and narrow and using mixed martial arts as a way to do that. What does it mean for you to have this story of really redemption?
It means a lot. If someone that's been in my situation and thinking that it's nothing else they could really turn to, or feeling like they don't have nothing to really push themselves in life to be better, they can really just look at my story and just feel good about the direction that they can go in life.
You spent some time working with George Foreman a little bit. Can you talk through your relationship with him and what that meant for you?
It was pretty cool. I was a lot younger than what I was now. It's probably like 12 years ago whenever I first started with George. And he just taught me how to throw a jab and stuff like that, and really lived it up for dirty boxing. And it just was like a mentor to me, making sure that I spend my money the right way.
What led you to, you could go down the boxing route, you could go down the MMA route. You have a lot of boxing that you use in your style of fighting. What led you to MMA?
I just felt like MMA was a lot easier than boxing, because in MMA, if you get tired, you can hold the guy, whatever. The ref not going to break you up. But in boxing, you can't really hold. You just got to stand there and just take it.
Do you remember, going back to your first fight? I know it's a long time ago. What do you most remember about that night, the first time that you're doing this?
The first time I was doing this, I got the win. I haven't trained that long. Like, usually guys train like years before they get their first MMA fight, and I only was training for like 2 or 3 months, and it was just crazy that I got the win over a guy that was training so many years before me.
What is the training like for a fight? This is a huge fight coming up this weekend. Take me through how long you've been training and what that looks like.
This camp here, I was training probably like 9 to 10 weeks maybe before the fight. And usually I don't train that long out before my fight. Usually it's like 4 or 5 weeks. But this week it was very special to me because it's my first time in St. Louis and my first time in the United States in a long time fighting main event. And I wanted to please the fans on this one.
What's that process look like when you and your folks are putting together a plan of how long the camp is going to look like and how much time you are going to be prepping?
The process is very frustrating to the most, because you really got to put yourself in the mind frame that you got to go out there and perform at a high level. And a lot of guys, it's hard to do because we're going inside of the octagon about to face someone that didn't do anything to us. So we got to try to get ourselves in the mood or whatever, trying to find any little thing. Oh, he said something about my mom. Oh, he said something about my kids or something like that. Even though he probably didn't, but you're trying to get yourself pumped up for a fight like this.
It's probably for somebody like me, it's probably a dumb question, but I'll ask you nonetheless. health is such an important part of this. I know you've had some bouts canceled in your career, whether it was health, whether it was COVID, whatever was going on. What do you do during when you're leading up and working for 9 weeks? What do you do to make sure that you're fully healthy going into the fight?
Just really try to baby myself, making sure that any little injury, any little tweak that I feel in my body that, okay, I gotta let my coaches know, all right, gotta turn it down just a little bit. But yeah, it sucks sometimes because it happens. Like I walk around almost 300 pounds. And I got to get all the way down to 265. So it's tough on my body whenever I'm trying to train at a high level.
Have you already weighed in?
I haven't weighed in yet. I weigh in Friday. So right now I'm walking around under 10 pounds at my goal weight.
After the weigh-in, how much do you then put back on?
It all depends on how my training went. If I had a quick training camp, I'll put all my weight back on. I'll probably be like 285, 290 by the time I fight. But if like now that I had a good training camp, I'll probably be like 275.
We're talking with Derek Lewis. He's got a big fight coming up this weekend as the UFC is going to be at the Enterprise Center. Rodrigo Nascimento, tell me a little bit about him and what your strategy is going to be going in.
I really don't know nothing about him. I just know he's from Brazil. He's 6'2", 265. And I'm guessing that he's a jiu-jitsu guy. Reason why I don't really know anything about him is my coaches, they study him. They the one try to tell me everything about him or whatever. And to me, I really don't care. I feel like I'm going this fight and do whatever I want to do. I can't really worry about what he got going on.
A lot of confidence in that you're going to say, my best can beat somebody else's best.
For sure. I believe that you got to have that because it's a brutal sport. You can't go in there and be like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, you got to go 100% when you step inside of the cage.
We've seen some of the other fighters that are on this card. It really feels like everybody involved with UFC wants to come in, wants to promote the fight, wants to be part of the community for the few days. Is there a culture of that? Is there a spirit of that in UFC that when you guys come in for a big fight, you're going to kind of take over the town and make sure everybody knows you're here?
Oh, for sure. We believe that UFC is the top dog. We got MLB, NFL, and all that. That's all cool and dandy. But we feel like UFC is on top of all of these guys.
We're talking to you, I think, before you're set to throw a first pitch. And I heard somebody mention redemption. Have you thrown out a first pitch before? Did it not maybe go so well?
Yeah, I threw out a first pitch before. It was with a cool team,
You want to share what team?
It was the Astros.
Okay.
I'm about to throw out first pitch. I didn't want to tell you. But yeah, it was with the Houston Astros.
So what's the plan then? Are you going to go to the top of the mound? What do you want to do to be able to throw a strike?
I'm gonna let the catcher tell me. The catcher, if he want me to throw a curveball, I'm gonna throw a curveball. If he want me to throw a slider, I'm gonna throw a slider. If he want me to throw a fastball, throw a fastball. If he want me to hit the batter, I'm gonna hit the batter.
That works. Derek, appreciate you taking some time. Best of luck coming up this weekend.
Yes, thank you.
That was my conversation with Derek Lewis earlier today. He did throw out the first pitch. They did get first pitches in, even though they didn't get the game in. Our own Kevin Wheeler threw out a first pitch. So this is how the first pitches went today. So Derek Lewis, big dude, tough dude, intimidating dude. He goes to the top of the mound and he throws, I think, as hard as he could. And when he throws as hard as he can, he does not throw a strike. If I would have been the umpire, I would have called it a strike because I'm not going to tell Derek Lewis that he did not throw a strike because I want my body to stay in one piece. So it was not a strike, but it was hard. He threw hard. It was high and away, I guess. It would be high and away to a left-handed batter, high and away, right-handed batter. It would have gone behind the head of a right-handed batter. So that was his thing. I heard, how sometimes you hear the pitch. That's one of the coolest things about spring training. I love early on in spring training on the backfields when guys are doing bullpens because you get to be right up next to it. And I love, this is going to sound so just dorky. I love the sound of like a fastball just buzzing in and then hitting the mitt. It wasn't like that. He was not throwing that hard, but it was something. It had some oomph to it. Good for him. So then Kevin Wheeler goes. He took a little bit of a different approach, but to Kevin's credit, he threw a strike right down the middle. It was Riley O'Brien who had to catch it, and there was no doubt. Now, it wasn't very fast. Kevin, as a baseball coach, throws a lot of batting practice. He knows how to groove a pitch. He knows how to put a pitch somewhere so somebody can hit it. That's part of his other job that he does as a baseball coach, a molder of young baseball players, I guess you could say. So that was him. So good on Kevin Wheeler. It was fun. I was down on the field when they did that. It was the DGS plus me. I'm like an adjunct faculty for DGS because I do sportscast during the Dave Glover show. But Wheels did a really good job on the first pitch. Unfortunately, because of the weather, it was like the parents of the kids who were about to sing the national anthem and a few other stragglers. Not a lot of people saw it today because not a lot of people were at the ball game when a lot of rain was coming down. All right, we'll take one more break, and when we come back, our guy Brad Young's in the house. He's got At Your Service tonight from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. We'll welcome him onto the program, find out what's going on with him and his show, and who knows what we'll talk about. But that's up next. This is a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
At Odyssey, we believe in casting a wide net to create a diverse and inclusive workforce. As we
by Graybar. Graybar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs.
It's Graybar Sports Open Line. We're back at it here on KMOX. My name is Matt Pauley. Just a few minutes left in the program, and then we'll get to At Your Service. Brad Young in the house tonight. Before we get out of here, we do want to tell you what's on deck. It's sponsored by Chesterfield Fence and Deck. The sign you have, the very best. Cardinals Brewers opening up a big 4-game series tomorrow. You'd love to see the Cardinals make some hay in Milwaukee. Sonny Gray on the mound tomorrow, 4-1, a minuscule .89 ERA. Tobias Myers will go for Milwaukee. He is 0-2 with a 6.23 ERA. The Brewers, outside of Freddie Peralta, don't have a whole lot of starting pitching right now. So if the Cardinals offense wants to wake up, this might be a good weekend for it to happen. But they've faced some other guys who have had some higher ERAs and haven't had a lot of success. So in many ways, it feels more about themselves than it does who they are facing off against. All right, let's bring Brad Young onto the program. Again, he's got At Your Service starting a little bit after the 8 o'clock news. Hello, Brad.
Matt, good evening, sir.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
So you came in here and you were pretty fired up about the Wilson Contreras injury.
I was, because I was at the game last night, and my law firm's got season tickets, and most of the time we give them to clients, but I think the rain scared away some clients from these tickets, so I ended up taking them. And I was right there, saw the whole thing. My tickets are right next to the field, so I got to see it up close and personal. And I was kind of outraged by it because, as you and I were talking here during the break, wasn't JD Martinez, wasn't he pretty far back in the batter's box?
He was over the line. So by definition, he was breaking the rules.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it was egregious, and I wouldn't say it's anything that 60% of Major League Baseball hitters, maybe that's a little bit a high number, but it's not something that a good solid percentage of hitters do.
But in this particular context, since obviously it was a catastrophic injury to Contreras, and he broke his arm, for goodness sakes. Have you ever seen anything like that before?
No, I've never seen somebody hit somebody on the forearm on a swing.
But I understand the rule here, which is if the catcher interferes with the batter gets to take the base. But given that JD Martinez was technically out of the batter's box at the time of this occurrence, in retrospect, should he have been allowed to take the base?
I think letter of the law, no. Letter of the law, no. But again, it's if you're going 35 on a 30 and you get pulled over, you're going to say, what in the world? Nobody gets pulled over for going 35
except in Calverton Park.
Okay.
In Calverton Park, Missouri, which is right between Ferguson and Florissant, you're 1 mile an hour, you get pulled over.
All right.
But is it subject to that?
The highway, is it Kinlock as well, where they'll get you every once in a while?
Oh, Kinlock is notorious too.
They're good at doing that. But you understand the spirit of what I'm saying. It's a rule that's not enforced. So is a non-enforced rule actually a rule? And as a lawyer, you might have a different take on that.
I do, because the whole idea, like, for example, if you're speeding 1 or 2 miles over the speed limit, let's use that as an example. The idea there is, and the complaint that people have is that I'm really not doing anything wrong. I'm not causing any greater chances of being involved in an accident or hurting someone. But in this instance, can't one make the argument, one being me, that because Major League Baseball doesn't enforce this rule, batters know that they can get away with it. And by getting away with it, in this instance, Wilson Contreras was injured due to the negligence of the umpires to enforce this rule.
That's good. I see. I do.
This is what I do for a living.
Yeah. I think there's culpability on both sides, because Contreras is he's trying to steal a strike is what he's doing. He's trying to fool the umpire. So the cost of setting up that far up as a catcher is you might get a catcher's interference call, or you might break your arm.
Okay, so my argument gets shut down.
I don't think you're wrong. I think there's culpability on both sides, and I think it's a perfect storm. But I appreciate the point. That's Brad Young. In 10 seconds, what do you have going on tonight?
Lots of legal stuff, including Trump. Don't talk about Trump a lot.
Yeah, you barely ever talk about Trump.
Will tonight.
Okay, he's got a lot going on right now, and especially with the legal stuff, Brad's the guy to talk about it. It's At Your Service with Brad Young. It's on the way next here on KMOX.
Talk about MVPs and award-winning talent. Chesterfield Fence and Deck is absolutely that. Locally owned